Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
Hello, my friends. It is Thursday, the 4th of September, 2025. It is 5:45 a.m., which of course means it is time for, well, you to be in bed, I hope. But for me, it's time for Mullinger's Weekly Ramble, and then it'll be time for you to enjoy, in theory, this episode of Mullinger's Weekly Ramble whenever it is that you get round to listening to it. Anyway, it is episode 64. It's back to school week. A wonderful time for everyone, I guess, except kids that don't want to go back to school. But you should want to go back to school because you're very, very lucky if you are in the country of Canada, which most of you are. There's a few of you in Britain and America. And again, I hope your back-to-school experience is wonderful. Back-to-school week is a wonderful thing, of course, for parents, especially self-employed parents who have been struggling to... well, work, frankly, with you lot lying around here begging for more V-Bucks and Robux and all those other things. Although, on V-Bucks and Robux, Ali Hassan said something quite wonderful last week when I was in Cape Breton doing a show, and we went out on the night of arrival to a place called the Cellar Bar, where there was a quiz night going on. This was in North Sydney, you can walk through the town of North Sydney, Nova Scotia, and think there's not much going on. But if you are in the know, as Ali Hassan was and is about most things, there was this secret bar that he knew about called the Cellar Bar. And we go in, and it's absolutely popping, buzzing, full of just awesome people having a wonderful time. And I guess... what's my point? I guess my point is that when you're in the know, you're in the know. It's funny how you can go to a town and think, oh, there's nothing here except a Tim Hortons and a Dooley's. But then there's a secret underground, well, it could be a secret underground anything. Comedy club, sex club, you name it. Anyway, we were there with Nathan McIntosh's wonderful new wife, Liz. They had got married a week before. Nathan was performing that night at the festival. So we went out, and it was so lovely to get to know her. And a truly, truly amazing person, as you would expect from one of Canada's finest comedic exports. And Nathan, on the subject of Nathan McIntosh, he will be in the Maritimes this month, doing shows. We're performing together at the Campbellton Comedy Festival, which is called the Awesome Festival, later this month, and both doing the Debaters this month in St. John and Charlottetown. Anyway, what's this tangent I've got us onto already? It's not even 6 a.m. We're less than 3 minutes in on a tangent. Yes, this was it. It's not even that interesting a point. Is it? Well, you be the judge of that. This is great. This is a great way to start the podcast, James. Telling everyone that what you're about to say is amazing. We were talking about the constant barrage of requests from children for V-Bucks, Robux, and other things, things in games like Crash Royale, and how I'm sure if you're a parent and you've read the research that these things are designed to get children essentially addicted to gambling. I think I've talked about this in the podcast before, the awful prevalence of online gambling, and I guess also how sports betting is now completely legal, so it means that you can't turn on any sport without them kind of begging you. Hey, you've got a gambling problem and you've got no credit? Well, never mind. Hey, we'll give you $100 of free gambling credits, and you just do with that what you will. Like, it is actually quite incredible how targeted sport betting and indeed all gambling now is towards gambling. Like, we've kind of seemingly gone backwards. I mean, I think even the mafia in the 1920s weren't quite as ruthless as these companies. And also it's the fact that, basically every single, American comedy podcast and every sports star seems to not have any foibles, if foibles are the right word, ethics around pushing gambling. Can you imagine if other... I guess they do that. I was about to say, imagine they do this with other things, but I guess, is alcohol advertising targeted towards alcoholics? I mean, not overtly, but I guess in many ways it is. Like, look at this delicious looking beer. How great would your day be if you just had a delicious sip of this for breakfast? They're not actually saying that. Maybe that says a lot about me, that maybe that's what I'm taking from these adverts. Anyway, my point is that these V-Bucks and these Robux, they're all these essentially designed, obviously, to kind of drain money from your bank account. So I remember once, many years ago, doing a fundraiser show for KV Domestic Violence Outreach at the BMO Theatre in St. John, and my son... Well, I won't use real names. I want to cast aspersions on my own children. Back to school week. I'll get back to school week in a minute. I was doing a show, and he was helping lovely Rhonda Cusack on the merch desk, not the merch desk, the 50/50 desk, and somehow, I don't know, through my credit card being saved in the phone, he was able to purchase like hundreds of dollars of V-Bucks. I mean, they're very young at this point, maybe 7 years old or something. Kind of didn't have any idea what he was doing. And anyway, what's my point? My point is that this happens where kids accidentally buy things, but then also now they'll beg for it. Anyway, this is a very long way to get to the point, which is simply that, as my wife has pointed out recently, when the kids were younger, to kind of entertain them, you might go to Toys R Us or go to yard sales and just buy junk that you then had to throw away. If it was new, you got the packaging. If you're buying it from the yard sale, it was already broken, and you'd get it back and you need to chuck it. And I guess the point my wife made recently is that when they ask for, $15 of credits, of V-Bucks or Robux, whatever it is, at least it's not crap you don't have to throw away. Like, it makes them happy, it's in the thing, and then it's gone. So, and Ali Hassan brilliantly turned around and said to me, "Oh, great, James, thanks to V-Bucks and Robux, you are a vision of sustainability." That's what I was trying to get to. Vision of sustainability. I know that I did. So anytime as a parent, granted, we shouldn't be wasting our money on these games, these credits, these unlocking a box of gold in a game. Like, I've never played one, so I don't know if this is even a thing. Unlocking a box of gold in a game of Clash Royale. It's a waste of your money. It's also teaching them wrong things. But sometimes, the kids ask, and, you want to be left alone, frankly. And we can all relate to that at the end of... The lovely thing about this time... So anyway, anytime you feel bad about it, just remind yourself, in Ali Hassan's words, that you are a vision of sustainability. Greta Thunberg would be over the moon with you. You are saving the world by buying V-Bucks rather than buying... The amount of packaging on this toys that... I think last week I was talking about the tragedy of Punchline's Comedy Club closing this week. It had its final show. Genuine, devastating for the comedy community, for the live entertainment community. Also, just seeing restaurants closing left, right, and centre. The Abbey in Fredericton, the much loved Vegelution in St. John. Is this an awful trend? Is something going wrong in these things? All these wonderful and much loved places are closing. What was I going to say? I was thinking about something else just then. Oh, unsurprisingly, when I joke on stage about literally waking up and then like flying out of bed like Dracula and 500 thoughts flooding in my head. Maybe it isn't 500. It's a couple of hundred. I've got to tell you, it's a couple. And basically, that's going on for my entire day. Right now, there are quite 100 or so thoughts flooding through my. Anyway, this gets to the point. Being self-employed during the summer holidays is not easy. I remember this time of year vividly from last year, because what is exciting about it is that the kids go back to school and think, well, that's it, summer's over, didn't get to do anything fun, didn't get any work done. Now I've got to hit the grindstone again and go absolutely mad now for 4 months. But you forget that the weather's still nice for another month, so there is that, right? And then obviously, and I'm not doing that kind of like, back to school. Isn't it a nightmare having the kids around? I'm not doing that because it's a cliche, but it is a nightmare having the kids. But I think the tricky thing is that wanting to be an amazing parent and make them happy all the time, but while also needing to obviously balance that, it's kind of the dichotomy of that being in the foremost of your mind. But then you have wonderful days, like my wife and I just had an amazing day on Friday. Where her amazing parents, and again, her amazing parents, was one of the reasons. Obviously, we moved here, but the kind of the help that they and they took the kids to Magic Mountain, which is a wonderful thing when your kids are being very well occupied. Pam and I got up. We had a lot of work to do on a very exciting actually project for the St. John Regional Hospital Foundation that we're working on. I was still glowing from the Yip Cider Dome show last Thursday night, which, by the way, if you were at the Thursday 28th of August show at the Yip Cider Dome, it was interesting. The last two shows I did at Yip last month, or the month before in July, were marred by my facial disfigurement. For those of you that weren't there or didn't hear on the podcast, I had an infection from an old root canal surgery, so my face was basically looked like the Elephant Man. If Marlon Brando had put all the stuffing from his entire face onto one side, that's how I looked. I was in absolute agony for the other shows. So the other shows, even though they actually went surprisingly well considering, I didn't enjoy them, which was disappointing because these shows are the highlight of my year. But interestingly, right before, I don't know if I say interestingly, it's not my place to say interestingly before saying something quite boring, because it's you are the very kind listener. It's not really my it's not my injury. The point is before the Yip show, I went to see Dr. Chase, my dentist. I think I did. You need to know this. So basically, I'm missing a tooth right now because we, obviously ripped. I had Dr. Watson very kindly ripped out the infected area. I'm now without a tooth, which doesn't bother me at all compared to the absolute agony. I still haven't quite got over the agony. This summer was actually. I guess this is another reason why I'm quite. This summer was filled with quite a few traumatic things. Health things, relationship things involving very close family members, things involving my immediate family under this roof, things which obviously involves me, but painful things, physically, emotionally. My facial disfigurement, which is obviously the least of my concerns, because all I cared about was it. The pain obviously was the worst pain I'd ever experienced, but that just made me realize what a spoiled and privileged person I am. That's the worst pain I've experienced at 47. The most I ever cried in a day, if you can believe this. This is, you look at the terrible things happening all over the world. The most I ever cried in a day was about 15 years ago when I had a very beloved cat called Molly, a white Persian cat, who was not happy, let's say, and we basically moved house, and Pam and I, due to our insane, this maybe makes us sound terrible people, but we were basically, because we worked 14, 15 hours a day, and we're never home. This cat was very unhappy. Persian cats are kind of like mini doodles, like what I've now, where they want to be around people. Like my mini doodle wants to be cuddled constantly, which I love because someone's always home, pretty much, because we work out of our home. That was kind of what Molly needed. Anyway, she wasn't happy, so she used to basically destroy everything by peeing on it or pooping on it. That was her kind of dirty protest, to use a phrase from the Troubles in Northern Ireland, to equate a cat's emotional well-being with a 30-year tragic war for independence. Very similar things. What's my bloody point? Okay, so I was talking about the Yip Cider show, Dr. Chase, Magic Mountain. Someone should. Wouldn't it be? Imagine if I thought it would be funny to have someone keeping me on track. Because during gigs when I'm going off on like 10 different tangents, sometimes a kind audience member, sometimes Dwayne Hayes, if he's in the audience, will keep me on track. He'll give shout out prompts. Roblox, V-Box, sustainability, the Yip show. Pain. Yes, sorry, the most I ever cried in a day was basically, the point is I had to take my beloved cat back to the breeder. There was no other option. We couldn't suddenly start working from home. We couldn't start, and she wasn't happy. So anyway, I had to drive Molly from South London back to somewhere in East or West Sussex in south of England. And point being is it was like a 3-hour drive, and I cried the entire way there and the entire way back. And it was when I got home, I think Hunter was a baby at this point, I basically got home and realized that what a ridiculously privileged life, that the most I'd ever cried in a day was transporting a cat from one location to another location. And then here I am, more than a decade later, and the most physical pain I've ever experienced was, tooth pain, which granted, not saying I'm a wimp, but because, some people in the know, and by people in the know, I mean women, who have given birth. That's not me trying to be politically correct, by the way, saying women who have, meaning women with those things, because obviously women don't have some women don't give birth, choose not to, don't want to, can't. And again, that isn't me being politically correct in the new way of when you have to say like a woman born with a. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is I have lived. There was another thing we were talking with Ali Hassan. There's a credit card, an RBC Visa, that sounds very, to me, wrongly named. There's a Visa card called Infinite Privilege. Isn't that a bad? Doesn't that feel problematic to you as a name for, hello, I've got a credit card. It says here I have infinite privilege. Like I thought privilege is not a good, like white privilege. I guess, is there other privileges, or is it just the whitey? It's only whitey that has the word privilege after. Anyway, I don't know. I think holding a credit card going, hello, this gives me infinite privilege. While it might be like true and tragically true, is it appropriate? Couldn't they have come up with it? It's funny to think that millions of dollars was spent by RBC coming up with that name. And they decided, this is a good one for our credit card customers. Infinite privilege that will make them feel very important, and then when they arrive at the lounges at the airport, I have infinite privilege. Make way for the man with, or woman, or they. But let's face it. Mostly it's going to be men behaving in this dickish way. I have infinite privilege. I mean, that is targeted. There's not many women out. You can't make sweeping statements or generalizations, but generally there are certain dickish moves that are only made by men. And if you don't believe me, watch an episode or listen of Kill Tony, and you will see. Anyway, we'll get to Kill Tony in a minute, because Kill Tony is another thing. My point of many is that I went to see Dr. Chase, and I got a missing tooth. So now I'm actually working on braces for most of next year, because when you've got a tooth missing, that is the time to get your crooked teeth straightened out, apparently. Funny thing on the dentists. I actually like going to, some people don't like going to the dentist. I do. I mean, again, well, I do all the time, even to get a tooth removed, because I was in so much pain, which we've established was the worst pain I've ever experienced, except for the pain I felt trying to transport a cat. 20 minutes in, this was supposed to be a short episode. Okay, try and focus your brain. Okay, I'll quickly. Yip Cider show last week. The point is, I went to Dr. Supervisor. I'm going to get braces. That's it. What question for you, dentists who listen to this podcast? Why? You've been in the game a lot longer than we. We're in the chair at most every 3 months. I quite like getting a, what do you call it? A cleaning. What do you call it when you go in for the cleaning? A cleaning. That's it. There is a better word for it. It's now 6 a.m. So can I try to have a sip of coffee? I've actually hadn't had a sip of the coffee, because do you need to know this? Because I drink powdered milk. I drink Coffee Mate in my coffee, because I have so many cups of coffee in there, because it's my ADHD meds. I've heard it ain't wise to drink all that. I mean, I say that. I do drink a lot of milk separately. So why do I drink Coffee Mate? I don't know. You didn't even ask, did you? I don't drink. I don't know why I drink a lot of Coffee Mate. I drink Coffee Mate. So the point being is the coffee takes a long time to cool down. Some of this, even when I'm saying it, I'm thinking, why are you saying this? That is kind of the story of my life, though. Do you get this? Every conversation you go into is why. I mean, again, some of you might notice this. Some of you might have seen me on stage or listen to this podcast. This podcast, by the way, I'm aware this is a day late. I tried to record it yesterday. Back to school week, absolute madness. Also, I have a big show going on sale next week. I'm also, actually, tomorrow I'm driving to Cal Bay. I'm driving to Cal Bay, Nova Scotia for a show this Saturday night, which I can't wait for. I'm also going to get to meet, finally in person, the amazing author of more than 100 novels, Leslie Choice, who I've been a huge fan of his work for a long time. He wrote a wonderful book about traveling around England with a dog, and his wife, by the way. And again, there's no joke to be made there. It was a man and his. The title of the book is like traveling around England with a dog, but he is with the dog and his wife, and he is without question one of Canada's most beloved and also prolific authors. And we might be excitingly be working on we are. I say it might be. We are working on a project together. I mean, I'd say that his latest YA book is actually reviewed in the next issue of the magazine. Point is, I haven't had. The point is, I haven't had a sip of coffee yet because I drink Coffee Mate, and so it takes ages to cool down because there's no cold milk in it. You don't need to know. I'm gonna have a sip. Is the point? And we ain't editing it out. What I should do is just edit out sips and it. Okay. Oh my god, that's good. The first sip of coffee is so good. Do you remember when you used to smoke? It's weird that, isn't it, actually? When you used to smoke, you used to think the first cigarette of the day. I remember bonding about this, name drop, with Kate Winslet once once. We bonded heavily over this, a love of the first cigarette of the day. And it's weird because that is absolutely disgusting, isn't it? The first cigarette of the day, like waking up in the morning and smoking a cigarette. The concept of that is... Okay, we're back. The point is... Okay, here's a question. Why do the dentists... You get in the chair... I mean, I don't know. Maybe... You get in the chair... And they ask you a question. So, but it's often more than just like, so how's your summer been? Which, by the way, who is sick of that question? I mean, we've got to all figure out. Sorry, that's what I was going to say. Is that I need to gear up to doing this podcast. It's very much like therapy, as you all know, and I need to do it. And if I don't do it, I get quite depressed. But some of you might have noticed when you meet me in public, you might have seen me on stage or heard me on this podcast, and you meet me in public, and you're like, "Why is he being weird?" Answer, I am weird. But I'm also very awkward in social situations in that I'm constantly second guessing myself. And in any conversation I might have with you, as I walk away from that conversation, my brain is saying, why did you say that? That person thinks you're a moron. Whatever I do or say, basically there's voices in my head telling me that I'm a dick and you think I'm a dick as we're walking away from one another. So, please know, though, basically, please know that when we have a chit chat, if I seem weird, I'm not weird. It is the same me. I'm just a bit uncomfortable in social settings. Therapists have described this to me, why I can do stand-up and why. It's something to do with ADHD, and it's something to do with being in control on stage. I'm gonna jump to something I was actually planning to speak about, which is the Yip Cider show Thursday night. Beautiful photographs taken by the amazing Ainsley Coates of Wild and Heart Photography in New Brunswick. Who, by the way, she's one of the best photographers of families anywhere. She did our family photo last year. And now I learned she's one of the best photographers of live events as well, which I knew anyway, because I've done many events for the St. John Regional Hospital Foundation with her before that she has captured. However, she was there to capture the show. I'll be uploading the pictures, so if you were there. But I want to say this. It was my first time doing an all-comedy lineup at the Yip Cider Dome. And on the week of the tragic news of Punchlines, one of Atlantic Canada's only full-time comedy clubs, if not, one... There's two in Halifax, and that's it. And this was the only one in New Brunswick. No, sorry, Comic Sutra in Fredericton. This is a bit like the Monty Python. That's it. There is 3 other clubs. That's not enough. So to lose a club, to lose St. John's only club, tragic. We had an all-comedy lineup for the first time. And there's very little positivity in the world right now, and indeed locally. But locally or positive. Earthquakes, war, a dictator covering up a litany of sex crimes, and comedy clubs and restaurants closing on a local level. Pardon me. Think how much coughing there'd be on this podcast if these were the days of smoking. Okay, my point is that we had a lineup of 6 of my favorite comedians, and I will point out that when I first did a show here in the late noughties, which still feels weird saying noughties, these about 2008, 6, 7, whatever, there was like 4 comedians in the province. Shane Ogden, amazing Shane Ogden, still going. Lloyd Raven, tragically passed. Rest in peace, Lloyd. Neil Mundell, Coy Hartlin. There's now like upwards of 100, but crucially there are dozens and dozens that are literally like headliner standard, and all the others are working really hard to become headliner standard. Anyway, Thursday night, thank you for all the messages you received. Thank you all for arriving at their show on time, packing out the sold-out Yip Cider Dome. Shout out to the amazing lobster rolls that we had outside. Those of you that pointed me in the direction of the It was the Salty Fisher food truck. Jared is the owner. He, in classic New Brunswick fashion, Jared is the fisherman who catches the fish. He's from St. George, as all great people are. He catches the fish in St. Andrews Bay and then sells the amazing fish and lobster rolls and fish and chips. By the way, I had the fish and chips too, and it was like proper British, mate. Proper British. My kids hate me doing that. About everything. I've become one of those expats now that after 11 years of living away from home, I'm like, that is a proper British point, mate. That is a proper British fish and chips. But now I just do it about everything that's not even British. Like, I'll just do it to annoy them. That is a proper British fiddlehead. By the way, if this podcast goes live this morning, I don't know how busy the amazing team at Podstarter are right now, but if it does go live today, I'm doing a photo shoot with the amazing Kelly Lawson this afternoon for my 2026 tour show, which incidentally, if you want to know what it's called, I don't know if you were wondering, but if you are, I'm calling it Canadian Comedian. For many, many reasons. So, quick, dentist, why do dentists ask you a question? Oh yeah, that was what I was going to say. What do the chit chat, the chit chat when people go, so, how's your summer been? Or they go, cold enough for you, or, going away for Christmas. Or does anyone here, what we should all do is sit down and figure out an answer. But if you can't even be asked to sit down and plan out what you're going to talk about, rambling bollocks for a 1 hour podcast, what chance have you got? But I was starting to think that every time I get stopped, I'm standing in the line at Cochrane's or the Sobeys, and someone comes up and goes, so, how's your summer been? I need to figure out a better answer than, a bit busy, but, post-COVID won't complain about being too busy again. Can I still reference COVID? That was 5 fucking years ago. I don't know what the answer is. How was my summer? I guess I'll answer the question. My summer was filled with work, trying to pay the bills, some really fun pieces of work, doing gigs in PEI, for example, some really, really beautiful things like having my brother to come and, incidentally, one thing I think I forgot to mention last week about my brother visiting and his family visiting, it was the one that it was their first time in Atlantic Canada ever. And they were, so here in New Brunswick for like 4 or 5 days. Can I just say that the thing they kept talking about was how beautiful it is. Now, bearing in mind, my brother's obviously from England, his wife's from Kelowna. They have lived in England and lived in BC. They live in Vernon, BC. They're surrounded with a different type of beauty, of course. And of course, sometimes we have to make the mistake of trying to compare places, but you can't. They're different. And we were worried, are they going to come here and compare? Anyway, they just kept talking about how staggeringly beautiful New Brunswick was. And it's a different, and as there's a different type of beach. They went to New River Beach, blown away by New River. They don't have beaches like that in BC. Went to St. Andrews. They don't have streets like Water Street. They don't have experiences like walking across outside of your house and going to your beach and then kayaking to Long Island. That view, going to the peninsula. They have different types of views. So be proud, New Brunswick. Own it. My point is, when do you go to the dentist? Why do they ask you a very big loaded question right before sticking all of their massive hands into your gob? That's what I've been trying to get to for 15 minutes, right? Because they kind of go, so, how do you spell Mississippi? Vroom! Suddenly, your mouth's being fisted by by 2 hands, and you're going, whoa, whoa. Is it that dentists can? I would imagine it's, when the hairdresser tells you to stop. Chris, my hairdresser's like, James, stop talking, sit still, stop jiggling about and trying to, do something quite finite, like trim those ridiculously bushy eyebrows of you. Stop moving about. Surely it makes the dentist's job harder if you're sat there going, the summer's been right. So how does that help them? But also, how are they understanding a word you're saying with 2 fists in your mouth? But maybe that's one of the things you learn in dentist training school, is like how to understand people speaking with hands in their mouths. So maybe it's like the practice is day 1 of dentist camp. Is it dentist camp, dentist university, dentist? What, I don't know what the dentist training school is called. You have to put like 3 gobstoppers in your mouth and then talk, and the other person has to figure out what you're saying. Anyway, what I'm trying to get to is, went to the dentist, went to Yip Cider, the Salty Fisherman, amazing. Go see Jared, amazing lobster rolls. If you want to learn, it's all on my Instagram feed. 6 incredible local talented comedians came and ripped the roof off. And what made me so happy and proud was the fact that, like, the whole audience come in and just were ready to laugh. There's very few gigs you do where you come in and this audience is just primed ready for laugh. Another one I did was in Bedeck 2 weeks ago for the CBC Laugh Out Loud recording, which incidentally, by the way, my CBC Laugh Out Loud album is coming out on vinyl. Paul Milnett's putting the finishing touch to it. Matthew Joel Phillips is putting the finishing touches to the artwork. And then my new Laugh Out Loud recording will be on CBC later this year. Our audiences that are just ready to go. So, in order, it's not in order. This isn't the order. This isn't the order. Forget what I said. This isn't the order. This is the 6 people that ripped the roof off. Brad Rice, Brady Manderville, Cive Lucas, Josh Kotsabasakis, Michelle Lynn Petite, and Adam Blanchard. You read this a lot on social, especially when any comedy shows you read this. Everybody killed it. You hear Tony Hinchcliffe say this to people. You killed it when it's one of his, supposed killers of Kill Tony, or when he pulls out, a supposed legend like Jim Norton. You killed it. They didn't kill it. Half the time on Kill Tony, they say, basically, if they don't know who someone is, i.e. it's a random bucket pull, they get a couple of laughs, they basically say that it was terrible. And then if one of their supposed killers of Kill Tony, who is, again, they've just become part of their club, their frat boy club, they say that people say they killed it and they don't. Legitimately, everybody killed it. I do hope all of those comedians, Brad Rice, Brady Manderville, Cive Lucas, Josh Kotsabasakis, Michelle Lynn Petite, and Adam Blanchard, I do hope they all post their sets online, because they don't, and their sets don't need to be edited. And Brad Rice, by the way, hats off and thank you for filming the show, as well as performing and delivering a barnstorming set. The audience just absolutely loved all of them. And I think not that they were surprised by that, but I think we were all surprised that this incredible audience came out. It helped to do it later in the summer, so it wasn't as hot. That was definitely something which helped. But it was off the charts. Every single comedian ripped the roof off, killed it. And then we had an intermission. Everyone came back nice and quick. It was actually the perfect night, perfect show. Then my son Hunter went up, had his best show of the summer, and then I had, I think, my most enjoyable, most freewheeling, most loose, most audience interaction. Just not feeling the pressure and just having fun and enjoying being on stage. That hour on stage on last week, on the Thursday, the 28th of August, was one of my happiest shows. So what a great way to end the summer. Incidentally, as you all may know, we have a wonderful, wonderful sponsor. I'm going to very quickly do the sponsor read. Don't jump ahead. It's very, very quick. So, whenever you jump ahead. And also, this is not Kill Tony. I'm not going to keep flogging you, erectile dysfunction tablets or gambling, sports betting things, and then I'm going to whiz through, because basically I only got 10 minutes left, because soon it's going to be 6:45 a.m. and then I've got to get in the shower. I've got the kids in the shower, and then I've got to. I've got a meeting this morning about I'm hosting the Atlantic Canada Interior Design Awards next week. In Halifax. I'm doing a gig in Halifax this weekend, then driving home, then driving back 2 days later. But part of why I'm coming home, why the hell am I coming home? Well, I guess because, again, it's expensive to stay in hotels in Halifax. So next week, when I'm doing the show at Pier 21, the big hosting awards gig. We couldn't get a hotel in Halifax. I mean, we got one in Dartmouth, granted, but so I'm doing a gig in Cow Bay this weekend, and then coming home to watch Come From Away is one of the very good reasons. Tonight I'm going to see that movie Weapons, which I have managed to not read anything about. I saw Edgar Wright's Instagram post about it. Edgar Wright, director of Baby Driver, and of course famously Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and I did a photo shoot with Edgar Wright once, and by the way, he's a delightful and lovely a person. It was actually in a pub, one of his favourite pubs, and it was the first time that Simon Pegg first told anyone publicly that he'd quit drinking in the interview that I did with him. Which it's funny, disappoints you when someone has famously, the Winchester. Okay. I'm going to see, I've got a shoot with, I've got a meeting this morning at the kids' school, shoot with Kelly Lawson. That's what I was trying to say earlier. If this podcast goes live now, Kelly Lawson and I are doing a photo shoot for my 2026 tour poster this afternoon. I believe lovely Michelle Stoddart is joining us as well, if in a capacity that will be revealed at a later date. Very excited about this. But we need props, and one of the props we need is a fiddlehead. So if anyone has either a real fiddlehead or a fake fiddlehead, please let me know. And then tonight I'm going to see that movie Weapons, which, again, John Scove Nielsen actually wrote to me, one of the best comedians around. who incidentally, I believe, also had a show that same Thursday night last week in Hampton with the wonderful Caitlin Dean and his amazing wife Emily, and they also had a packed house. So again, I mean, it's wonderful when comedy works. What is my bloody point? Stick with me. Here is the very quick sponsor read. This episode of Mollinger's Weekly Ramble is proudly brought to you by Floyd's Appliance Centre in Hampton, New Brunswick. But they're not just appliances anymore. Floyd's has grown into a full-on home centre, from GE appliances and heat pumps to Canadian-made furniture, flooring, mattresses, contracting, repairs and installations. They really do it all. Family-owned, community-driven and dedicated to making your home better in every single way. Visit them at 739 Main Street in Hampton or Floyd's Store 739@gmail.com. Come home to convenience at Floyd's. The website is www. You don't actually need the www anymore. It's a sign of how old you are if you say www. It's a bit like, oh no, the real one is www.floydsstore.ca, all lowercase. There's never been case sensitive. You could do big F, small L, a small O, big Y, big D, oi oi. You can do it. It's funny. Anyone that says, basically, you can tell someone's basically not really with it, doesn't know what Robux, V-Bucks is to bring things full circle. Definitely never heard of Crash Royale. If they do, don't need www anymore. That's been gone for ages. Someone goes to the dry cleaner and they take my phone number and I always go 506. He looks at me as if to go, I know it's black 506. You don't need the 506. Just get to the 333. Okay. www.floydsstore.ca. Basically, you don't need www anymore, and you don't need to say all lowercase or all uppercase at the end. It's neither. It's not case sensitive. You're giving away your age and lack of understanding of modern technology almost as much as if you give me your email address and you've got a simpatico email, or worse, a .nb.tel. Those emails. So, you know what? We are almost out of time. I will just quickly say this about, so Kill Tony is the hit podcast turned Netflix show that everyone keeps asking me about. It's the number one comedy podcast in the world, according to Tony Hinchcliffe, the host. It is interesting trying to explain the concept to people. I was in London earlier this year in a cafe in Greenwich, about to go and see The Ballad of Wallace Island with my friends Julian and Rob. I saw a poster for the O2 Arena, which is a 20,000-seater arena in London, for Kill Tony. And they're like, I said, oh my God, there's a Kill Tony coming to one of the biggest arenas in the world. They hadn't heard of it. So it's weird trying to explain it. So basically, comedians you haven't heard of potentially, although we have here in North America, but they certainly would sit on a panel on a stage, and then new comedians come on and bomb, and then they like roast them. And they're like, what? Like, what? Why? I mean, it's basically, they put Tony Hinchcliffe, if you've not seen it, here's the concept. Tony puts their names in a bucket, pulls one out, drags a random human being on stage, gives them 60 seconds to try stand up, and then they spend 10 minutes basically shouting at them. In some cases, the interviews are quite enlightening and quite funny. Sometimes they're not. It worked very well in the club, Joe Rogan's club. Does it work as well in an arena? Watch the Netflix. Well, don't watch it. Well, I'll tell you why it's not good. I'm not going to name her because it's not fair. But one of Canada's best stand-ups, and I say this sincerely, I've worked with her numerous times and seen her perform numerous times. She is one of the first bucket pulls of the night. She comes out, she's absolutely, she basically, obviously you can't do stand-up well in a minute. And then they're just kind of rude to her, and they're rude about Canada, and they send her off. And this is the guy who, when he comes to Halifax with his supposed killers of Kill Tony, who really, the killers aren't really killers. They just basically come on and say like disableist things and transphobic things and shout the N-word for the most part. There's not really many that have struck out from solely from Kill Tony that are actually really good. Although I will say that there is one, Cam Patterson, who does have moments of brilliance, and is now on the he is probably the first kind of breakout star where he's now actually just been cast on Saturday Night Live, which probably would have happened for him anyway. I don't know if you can necessarily thank Kill Tony. It's basically Hunger Games for comedians. The audience, which is basically made up of very loud, drunk frat boys, boo, cheer, scream like they're watching UFC. And Tony Hinchcliffe and his mates kind of rip the poor comic to shreds. And look, sometimes it can be hilarious, and sometimes someone nails their minute, but it's not really about nurturing talent. It's about blood. It's about booing, roasting, destruction. I get it. There's something entertaining-ish about someone trying to stand for the first time and being booed. by 200 Texans with craft beer moustaches, but less so in a 20,000-seater arena like the Madison Square Garden one, which is on. And the big problem with the Madison Square Garden one is you've got, Dave Attell comes on and is wonderfully Dave Attell, doesn't actually storm it like they say he does. It's interesting the bullshit bandied around. Jim, one of the things that the frat boys online say is that Jim Norton stormed it. I would say if Jim Norton had come out as a bucket pull and done that same set, word for word, it wouldn't. It's like, oh, he dreams of being in a plane crash and wishes his wife was next to him. It's not great. Anyone else having weird dreams lately? I had the weirdest dream this morning. I was kind of watching a horror movie, but I was also in it. It was super gory. Possibly because I'm watching that terrible Netflix show, The Waterfront. I will quickly say, after last week's episode, I was talking about kayaking and how much I loved my son. My son was doing the kayaking camp at Renforth and ended up competing at Champs, they call it. Tim wrote to me because his daughter, Tim is my English friend who also moved to the Maritimes. We bonded. I believe, Tim, am I right in saying that you maybe during COVID typed into Tubi or Fubi or Tubo or Prime or one of these things, looking for, I don't know, British comedy content or Canadian comedy content. You came across my special, Almost Canadian, reached out and we became friends. His daughter Fran paddles for Banook, which is actually where the regatta takes place, at the big red boathouse opposite the side of the lake, which really stands out. She paddles for Banook, which is incredible. And as he rightly points out, it is quite a fascinating sport, and the Maritimes especially, Dartmouth is top level in the country. As Tim kindly pointed out, he was happy that he got to see River win a race, and there's no better feeling. You're absolutely right. I literally am counting down the days to lake. But next week, if I got offered a ridiculously high-paying gig the week of, it's pretty much one of the only things that I would turn down a big gig for. I am going to be at the Lake Banook Regatta. His daughter Fran is U16, but she actually raced up in the U18 at Nationals. He kind of sent me some pictures. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. There's a lot of exciting things happening in kayaking in the Maritimes. So anyway, the Lake Banook kayaking regatta is the most amazing thing. And thank you, Tim. Tim was going to, if Gary kindly agrees that the Rebecca Cohen, where I'm doing my Halifax tour date next year, is a great venue. I should point out, listeners, lovely Bramblers, Bosch, Wednesday next week, Wednesday the 10th, which is my 19th wedding anniversary, incidentally, at 12 noon. The pre-sale tickets go on sale for my Rebecca Cohen tour date, which is taking place on Friday, the 17th of April next year. We filmed for a stand-up special. 12 noon they go on sale. Please make a note and help me fill this rather big venue. The pre-sale code, by the way, is Canada. Venice Film Festival on right now. Anyone else seeing? I mean, again, I was excited to see that the Smashing Machine, the Rock and Emily Blunt movie directed by Benny Safdie about Mark Kerr, the first ever UFC champion. Very excited to hear that the movie is getting good reviews. However, average reviews, I say, well, good-ish reviews, 3-star reviews. It's still got a 14-minute standing ovation. I mean, what is that about? That ridiculous ego of 14-minute standing ovations, completely unnecessary. Are you just camping because you're in the room with The Rock? Similarly, this new George Clooney Ego Fest movie, is it by Noah Baumbach? I just made that up. Basically, this movie with George Clooney got some, it's like, how can we break the record? How can, Clooney's movie got 1 star in The Guardian, egotistical, self-satisfied nonsense, 5 stars in the Daily Telegraph. I mean, is this just absolute madness? You got 2 critics, very similar friend, both complete opposites. What is it? It can't be a masterpiece and it can't be dog shit. It's got to be somewhere in between. This is again a movie which has been made for Apple Prime, I believe, so we're all paying for it, but we can't see it yet. Thanks a bloody bunch streaming. And then when we do see it, it's going to be more adverts than what we used to get on VHS tapes and indeed on terrestrial or what you would call network TV. And you can't fast forward the ads like you could on a VHS. We got to sit through all these ads. Hey, don't watch TV. Let's kill off normal TV. Come to streaming. Pay a subscription. Then you don't have to watch ads. Oh, now we've got you all addicted. Here are ads. You absolute thieving bastards. Ted Sarandos and evil, what's his name? Jeff Bezos. I only remember his name thanks to Bo Burnham's song. Anyway, all of this is to say, I've got to go. I've got to get the kids up. Message me, please. Just going to give my personal email now. I'm not going to give you the comedy at James Mullinger 1. Here's my personal email, jamesmullinger@gmail.com. Tell me what you love or hate about small airports, please, or will be revealed. Don't watch The Waterfront on Netflix. It is really a dreadful reflection of the warped and twisted value systems that seem to be constantly celebrated and promoted in these awful American productions. Just the glorification. Tony Soprano, great character. Soprano's great show. Mob Boss, yes. What is with these problematic, toxic, masculine men that permeate these shows? This glorification of horrible, evil people who just kill anyone with impunity. It's just sickening. Basically, the American cultural norms are rotten to the core right now, and these shows are indicative of everything. Unfortunately, that seems to be happening. I just want to continue. Oh, by the way, Andre Rieu's Waltz the Night Away Saturday at the cinema. By the way, Julie was over to see you. Congratulations on your 30 years in the business. God bless you, Julie Wood. If you do know Julie, if you go to the Cineplex Cinema, tell Julie congratulations. She's been a loyal Cineplex employee for 30 years, bringing joy to all of us. No such joy quite like watching Andre Rieu Maastricht's concert in a semi-full theatre. Andre Rieu, why do I love him? The kids keep asking me that. Why are you obsessed with that Andre Rieu? I'm obsessed with him because he's the world's greatest showman, and that's really, if I'm completely honest, that's all I want to do and be. I literally I have a job which I love, and I just want to make things that make people happy, whether that's jokes, books, videos, letters, notes, gifts, greetings, hugs. All I want to do is make you, if you're listening, happy. So come and see me. Come and say hi. Don't be surprised if I act a bit weird, but I will give you a hug because hugging makes me very comfortable. Chit-chat makes me uncomfortable. I've basically not got to any of what I did in the past week, but I will say I've been out kayaking with River a lot. We had a wonderful time at the X last week. It was a real blast. Went on the Himalaya ride multiple times. Had so much fun. Did the coin push machine and really managed to end summer how I wanted to end summer, which was spending lots of quality time with my sons. It was magical. Going to the X. And by the way, the Naked Gun movie, did I mention this last week? Absolutely hilarious. Some really, really killer jokes. Great spirit Halloween joke in the Naked Gun movie. Great police brutality joke. And what was the other joke? Oh, a great dog a bestiality joke, which it's very funny and it's in a clean movie. But last week, getting to the X with one son on one night and then do a comedy gig with the other son the next night. Just joy upon joys. Great way to end the summer. Andre Rieu at the weekend. And now back on the road. Cowbay this Saturday night. It is sold out. But what isn't sold out is the show that is not on sale yet for next year. 17th, Friday of April 2026. Canadian comedian, my new stand-up special, my new stand-up tour. Kelly Lawson, I'll see you in a few hours. Thank you very much for listening. Message me. Love you all very, very, very much. Anything else I wanted to add? Thank you, Tim, for writing. I do have other letters to read out. I'll read them out next week. By the way, thank you to Steve in the YMCA changing room. Actually, been going to the YMCA with a lot with my sons. Thank you to Steve in the YMCA changing room who came up to me and said that he was at the Cape Breton show 2 weeks ago. I mean, that is a sign. It's kind of how small the Maritimes is that you do a show to 200 people in a tiny little resort in Cape Breton, or big resort in Cape Breton, in the middle of nowhere. And then someone saw it. And as River said, as we walked out of the YMCA, he was like, Dad, this is an impression of you on the podcast later this week. You're going to be like, this bloody legend Steve came up to me at the YMCA. That's how my kids do impressions of my British accent. These racialist impersonations. Next week we're going to talk about this. I realise it's not racialist, just to be clear. They're constantly doing impressions of my voice. My son says that whenever I leave anywhere, I'm like, cheers, cheers, cheers. That's what he says I do. I go, cheers, cheers. Anyway, next week we'll be talking about terrible things that are happening in the world and hopefully good things happening in the world. A new series, by the way, that everyone's talking about. I say everyone. I read one review. The Gambler and the Cowboys is a gritty portrayal on the rise and fall of a sports dynasty, and apparently it is no holds barred. It's not one of these sanitized jobs. So anyway, worth watching. I'll also be talking next week in theory about, but I just read Bob Mortimer's book, The Hotel Avocado. Very good. Or is it good? We will find out. More to talk about Kill Tony. I will go through the Madison Square Garden special thing. Anyway, point being, follow and watch online. Adam Blanchard, Michelle Lynn Petite, Josh Kotsabasakis, Cive Lucas, Brady Manderville, Brad Rice. Lots more to talk about, lots more to share. I've got to go. Love you very much. Thanks for listening. Follow Podstarter. Follow Floyd Store. Better still, visit Floyd Store. Better still, shop at Floyd Store. I've been James Manager. You've been amazing. I can't believe I did this in under 15 minutes. What an absolute legend. I can't say call myself a legend. Now it's not over. Now it's not under 50 minutes anymore. So definitely not a bloody legend. Anyway, God bless you. Love you. Safe travels, safe week. I'll let you know what weapons it's like. I'll let you know how Bay is. And please do mark 10th of September as the date to buy tickets for my Halifax tour show for next year. Thanks for listening. I do love you, Ramblers. And now I finally feel myself again. Thank you for letting me get all of that out of my system. Right. It's coming. It's 7:15. Let's get this show on the road. Love you lots. Bye.